Welcome to Faith and Fury.
Thank you for listening to Give Me a Mulligan.
You have your family, you have your friends.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us.
Click on the podcast, download it, and listen to the whole show.
Watch out for new episodes every Saturday live. Literature gives us the chance to live 100 different lives, different perspectives, different worlds, and sometimes really bad decisions made in under 72 hours.
Right? And speaking of that, hi, I'm Collins.
And I'm Jackson, and you're listening to When Jack-Colls, your go-to lit sit down for fun takes on classic stories. Today, for Literature Day, we're breaking down one of the most spoken, most adapted, and honestly, most misunderstood plays of all time, Romeo and Juliet.
You know, that one movie where two teenagers fall in love, break a bunch of flaws, ruin everyone's lives, and somehow still get called hashtag couple goals?
Timeless.
But today, we're not just here to retell it, we're diving into what the original play actually says, what the 1996 Romeo and Juliet movie didn't show, and some wild trivia you probably never learned in class. The 1996 film Romeo plus Juliet, directed by Baz Luhrmann, reimagines William Shakespeare's timeless tragedy in a modern setting, while retaining the original dialogue. The film stars Leonardo DiCaprio as Romeo and Claire Danes as Juliet, with a production team led by Baz Luhrmann, Gabriella Martinelli, and Martin Brown.
Released by 20th Century Fox on November 1, 1996, this version of Romeo plus Juliet blends contemporary visual and musics with Shakespeare's classic narrative. The original play, Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare, was first published in 1597, cementing its place as one of the greatest tragedies in English literature. We brought in some help, three awesome guests to break it all down with us. So get ready, because this story, it's got love, feuds, fake deaths, real deaths, and one very shady friar with suspicious access to potions.
All right, joining us today are three people who know this play inside and out.
We've got Dr. Renee Santos.
I'm glad to be here. So nice of you guys.
Alex Yao, who recently did a modern Gen Z version of Romeo and Juliet.
Thank you for inviting us.
And Nina de la Cruz, who's been teaching this play longer than Romeo and Juliet have been alive combined.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So before we dive into what's different between the 1996 Romeo and Juliet film and the book, let's talk about just how fast this whole thing goes down.
It's the fastest relationship arc in literary history. One dance, and boom, lifelong commitment.
Meanwhile, it takes me 4 days just to respond to a text.
And then there's Count Paris. In the movie, he's this boring rich dude who Juliet obviously doesn't want to marry.
Yeah, and people often say he's like twice her age, but here's the thing. Shakespeare never gave him an age. That whole old guy creepily marrying a teenager vibe, that's a modern interpretation.
Which, to be fair, works great on screen. But in the text, Paris might be young and decent. Just unlucky.
Now, this is a detail that the 1996 movie totally leaves out. Are you ready? Romeo kills Count Paris at Juliet's tomb.
Wait, seriously?
Yup. Paris thinks Romeo is there to vandalize the grave. They fight and Romeo kills him. Then he lays Paris next to Juliet because, plot twist, Paris actually loved her too.
Why does no one talk about that? That makes the ending even more tragic.
You know what else gets hand-waved a lot? The fake death potion.
Yeah, I've heard that thing. Juliet goes to Friar Lawrence for help, and he casually pulls out a vial that fakes death for 42 hours. No one questions where he got it, no instructions, no disclaimers, just, here, drink this, and You look dead, but be totally fine.
In this movie, it's all dramatic lighting and spooky music. But no one ever says, wait, why does this monk have a fake death potion just on hand?
And here's something wild. Shakespeare didn't even invent this story. He based it on a poem from the 1560s by Arthur Brooke, which was based on older Italian tales.
Yeah, that one. Back then, theater goers actually preferred familiar stories. The idea of original plots, it wasn't a big deal. Shakespeare was basically doing historical fan fiction.
And without copyright laws, he could remix anything he wanted at a simpler time.
Now let's talk big picture. This whole play gets labeled as a love story, but is it really?
Honestly, no. At least not in the way we use that term now. Sure, there's romance, but the play is more about how hate destroys people, especially the young. Romeo and Juliet die not just because they fall in love, but because the adults around them refuse to let go of old grudges.
And Juliet's most powerful moment isn't falling for Romeo. It's when she realizes her family doesn't actually care about her happiness. That's when she takes control of her own fate. That's the tragedy.
So, before we wrap up, let's move back a bit. What's one thing you wish the 1996 Romeo and Juliet movie had kept from the play?
The Paris fight, it makes Romeo's ending so much more intense.
More of Juliet's emotional arc. She's not just lovesick, she's smart and desperate.
The nurse turning on Juliet. That betrayal really breaks her, and it gets skipped or rushed in most versions.
There it is, folks. Whether you first met Romeo and Juliet in a dusty high school book or through the 1996 movie's stylish slow-mo gunfights, there's so much more to life to this play than meets the eye.
Read it, rewatch it, question it, and maybe stop calling it the greatest love story ever told, because honestly, it might just be the greatest warning.
Before we end today's episode, a big thank you to our sponsor, Tragic and Bound, the bookstore for people who like stories that are sad, intense, or full of drama.
They've got books about love, loss, heartbreak, sword fights, you name it.
There's even a whole shelf called This Could Have Been Fixed If They Just Talked. And yes, Romeo and Juliet is there.
Welcome to Faith and Fury.
Thank you for listening to Give Me a Mulligan.
You know, you have your family, you have your friends.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us.
Click on the podcast, download it, listen
Thanks
to the
again
whole
to
show.
Tragic and Bound, the bookstore. That gives you all the feels.
They have a deal right now. Buy one, birdie one. You get one book to read and one to cry over. A perfect combo.
To the beat they keep, fog hides truth in a smoky sweep. Moments kissed by the ember haze.
Welcome to When Jack-Colls podcast.
Happy Literature
Literature
Day.
Day.